Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and today Eitan and I are talking about facing consequences. Joking before we began recording, one of the producer of the show was saying to me, people really don't like to face consequences these days, do they? And so that for me was a great sign that today's topic is on point, not only with the energy of the week, but really as a theme for humanity in general, understanding what it means to make a mistake, to fail, and how those definitions don't serve us. They keep us in a place of fear and limitation, and how to leave those definitions behind and understand that actually, at least according to the teachings of Kabbalah, failure or missing the mark is an inbuilt part of the system of growth. And it's not something that any of us can avoid or evade. So we're going to talk about today how to embrace those opportunities, what really happens behind the scenes, as well as how to prevent our fear of failure or making a mistake from driving the narrative of us reaching our fullest potential. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast in which we provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days. We do that by sharing the teachings of Kabbalah, its tools, its wisdom. And so every episode ends up sharing wisdom and tools that can be used anytime. And this particular week happens to be a powerful one, not only for the energy of the week as we learn it from the Zohar, but also because toward the end of this week, we have a very powerful cosmic window that comes once a year that allows us to tap into the power of miracles and joy for the entire year. So we want to take a couple minutes at the end of the episode to share more about that. But thinking about our own lives and the way that, it seems if you look at the climate in the world today, there's a lot of blame and victim mindset that's around with regard to failure, making mistakes, and of course, experiencing the consequences of those mistakes. So our starting point is really the story that the Zohar breaks down this week of the golden calf, the biblical story where there were real consequences from that process, but the Kabbalist perspective on that process was that it was elemental and fundamental, and we want to learn more about why mistakes are so fundamental to our spiritual process. Eitan, where would you like to begin?
So I think that the golden calf, even though it was an event that happened maybe 3,500 years ago, it's something that we are all repeating, the same, what we call the mistake or the short circuit of the golden calf. What does that story first represent? It represents what trigger for all of us reactive behavior, seeking instant gratification, which we are experiencing lack. That's when test starts in our life. We experience lack, fear, unknown, impatience, out of control, discomfort, pain. And as we know Kabbalistically, while in the bigger picture is just a temporary concealment of the light to help us to grow and to reveal greater light, but when we don't see it this way, and we will not have the spiritual strength, and none of us have the spiritual strength at all time, that's part of life, we react. In that particular case, for the Israelites, the golden calf, which is creating an energy that will fix their temporary pain, temporary discomfort. For each one of us, it can be lashing at someone, it can be expressing major anger, it can be lying, it can be cheating, it can be going back to addiction. It can be whatever golden calf for us mean. Golden calf is that for a second it feels golden, but at the end of the day, it just takes me backwards. So really we're talking about two issues here. Number one, to know in advance that every time I'm falling I'm falling with that sequence of steps, lack, reactivity, will be consequences. But then, the next topic that we'll speak about, mistakes are inevitable, and don't add more judgment into it. So let's go to the first thing, why consequences? Why, let me ask you, Elisheva, when we fail, let's say we short-circuited, we got angry again, we blamed again, we were going through something difficult and we spoke bad about someone, even though I made the vow to myself, I'm not going to speak bad about them. Just keep it for yourself. And because of that lack and pain, we needed instant energy and we fell short. And sometimes we hurt someone in the process. So why there are consequences? Why there are consequences? Consequences of pain, consequences of chaos. Why? First, that's first question, Elisha.
Well, I think the simplest way to understand it is that our universe is subject to the laws of cause and effect. In physics, they say every action is subject to an equal and opposite reaction, or we call it the butterfly effect or the boomerang effect. What I put out there is going to come back to me, not as a punishment. And that's why that word consequences, I know, it can be triggering for people. It's not a consequence. It's the return of that which I've invested. So if I invest...
It's not that God is punishing you. That's what you say.
God is not a punishing force, according to Kabbalah. God is an elevating force. So God looks at the fact that I got angry and maybe said some unkind words to someone and they were hurt. In order to elevate that scenario, right? It was a scenario that brought us both down, me in anger and the other person in hurt. To elevate both of us back, there has to be a balancing force, an opportunity for me to replace the darkness that was revealed with light. So that may look like me being on the receiving end of what I put out there, the roles reversing, usually not with the same person, usually not in the same area of my life. The effect of my short circuit, as you called it, will come in another area of my life. So I have the opportunity to inject consciousness about it, that I can be the victim. How dare they speak to me that way? Or I didn't deserve that. Or I can say, you know what, it happened to me. And I'm using it as an opportunity to cleanse a previous time when that was me speaking that way, or being unfair, or criticizing so harshly. So all of it, if we are aware, if we're paying attention, that's the key. If I'm paying attention, I don't have to be able to say, oh, this is because in 1987, I said something not nice to my brother. It's not about being able to pin the cause on the tail of the donkey, but to really be able to say, if it's happening to me, and I am the cause, the creator of my movie, I know that there is some sort of divine purpose here. I might not be able to see it or identify it, but to allow it to serve the balancing purpose that it has.
Got it. So what I'm taking for it is two things. Number one, when you're very tempted to react with a golden calf energy, instant gratification energy, pause and know, yeah, you're human. Doesn't mean you're not never going to react, but just to let you know, will be consequences, because that instant energy that you drew did not go to your soul. It fed your illusionary self. We call it in Kabbalah the shells, the klipot, the part that covering up our soul. So I just fed that process. Now, part of the laws of the universe, what you're saying, Elisheva, in order to assist us in breaking out of this klipot, because I didn't choose restriction of that immediate reacted behavior, the universe cleansing us through some difficulties, through some pain. And there is cause and effect, and don't expect that the fact that you hurt someone, or you react, or you lose it, or you cheat, or you speak bad about someone, or you express anger, that the energy I'm sorry, everything is okay. No, there are laws of cause and effect. Even though there's a concept called tshuva, repentance, if you catch yourself early in life, right after you made a mistake, and you truly take responsibility what you've done, you can cleanse it, and you don't need actually to go through major chaos. So that's number one. Number two, what you say, we all experience very uncomfortable and painful and sometimes unfair moments in our life. The first step before you say, why did it happen to me? It's unfair. It's the first step. It is actually opportunity to repair, opportunity to cleanse. What does it mean, cleanse? It's not just I'm impure and I need to become pure. Cleanse means the fact that I'm going through discomfort and I'm able to embrace it and to accept it. I'm detaching from my klipot, ego, illusionary self, and as a result, the ego has less hold over me. And I'm getting closer back to seeing life through my soul.
I think that that's part of the choice that we have, to see those moments of consequences, which obviously the human response is the natural response for most people is going to be, why is this happening? What did I do to deserve this? And it doesn't even have to be an enormous situation, right? I shared earlier this week with a group of people, I got pulled over by a police motorcycle years ago. I was blocking an intersection, right? It's not a very dangerous or malicious act, but it's nonetheless not legal. The police officer took my license and registration and went to wherever they go when they write a ticket. And I grabbed my Zohar and I was asking, really talking to the Creator, whatever needs to be, I'm embracing it. But if there's any way to avoid this, I would really love an alternate experience. And the police officer threw my license and registration back in the window, didn't talk to me, just got on his motorcycle and went away. No ticket. So I don't know what happened that suddenly it was more important for him to be there. I don't need to know. But what I need to know is that there was an opening for me to deal with some sort of consequence, if we're calling it the way, using the title. But somehow I was able to step into an alternate universe, an alternate reality, where either the consequence would be distributed in a different way, in a more merciful way, in an easier way, or somehow I was given the opportunity, like you said, to cleanse whatever caused the need for that challenge, and it was removed from the movie immediately. Now, the funny thing is that in that situation, or obviously that's a minor situation, there's definitely worse scenarios out there, right? Why is this happening is the natural response. But in Kabbalah, we learn that there's two ways to ask that question. There's, why is it happening? I'm such a good person. I don't deserve this. This is not fair, right? And then there's, why is this happening? How can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? Where is the light here for me that I'm supposed to reveal? And when we ask we go on the second line of questioning, we end up opening the possibility of receiving the balancing of whatever negativity we might have put out there in the past, to receive it in the form of a lesson, or even to be able to call it like a near miss, right? It was almost chaotic. It was almost dramatic. It was almost terrible. And another really practical example I heard from a student just recently is that she hired somebody. She had this whole day of work planned, spent a lot of money on it. And it ended up that the person that showed up to do the work was absolutely not the right person. But she still had to pay everybody for the day of work. And it was really frustrating, and to the point of looking up at the sky and saying, why did it happen this way? What did I do? What am I doing wrong is really the question that people ask. And through knowing, I mean, this person is already on the spiritual journey, so she understood that there's got to be some reason, some goodness behind it, even if she's not feeling it or seeing it yet. And she began this process of realizations and understandings that the best case scenario was losing the money. How terrible it would have been if she had insisted to work with this particular person, how unaligned with the company it would have been, how much greater loss there would have been, and the whatever, expense of the day's work was worth the realization that it's better to find the right people and pay more for the long-term return and benefit to the company. And so even though that the waste and the disappointment, the frustration, even having to deal with it, sort of telling the entire team we're not doing this, and disappointing and frustrating them and their time and their energy, was well worth the realization. Even though the lesson was given in an uncomfortable package, it was so, hearing her talk about it, it was so worth it. She feels so blessed to be able to see and have the perspective to be able to shift from why is this happening to me to how can I grow from this and what can I learn from it. And it ended up becoming one of the greatest blessings for her. Now, we were talking about how, maybe the temporary discomfort of wasting the money, right? That was the real hard pressure, pain point for her, was wasting the money that day on no production. But realizing that, let that be cleansing. Let that, go to removing some of those shells and eliminating real, genuine chaos for the future, so that she could live in this more enlightened and so much more powerfully creative place that she is now, because of everything she got from this experience that looks on the outside externally as loss and waste and a mistake.
Beautiful. What is one of the most painful emotional discomfort that a person can go through? Humiliation. Actually, it says that when someone humiliates someone else, and it's worse if it's in front of other people, it's considered to be, as far as the short circuit, level of murdering. Nevertheless, amongst the Kabbalists, it's known. When you are being humiliated, it can get you so hurt and so much in pain, especially that you feel it's unfair and so much a victim, and it gets you to a spiral of thinking and being into yourself to a worse place, or it can be the biggest cleanser of all. I remember in the old days, when the whole world was against spreading Kabbalah, every time one of the students, us, the teachers, the student of the Rav and Keren, was humiliated by someone and blamed for someone in front of other people and called bad names, the Rav used to tell us, pause, accept it with love. They just cleanse from you so much negativity that you would have never be able to do. So it's a choice. I feel major pain, but it's there to rid myself from this ego energy. How do you know? Who is bothered with the humiliation? What part of my mind is so worried and unfair and feel a victim? Is it my soul or my ego? So let the ego be bothered. It's up to us. You know what? It's good. I don't want you to control my life. That's not my true essence. Actually, it's known among some Kabbalists that after they give a big talk and they're helping many people and everybody tells them how great you are, they are praying for someone to judge them, because they know it's so easy to fall into the trap of, I am great because I'm perceived great. So now let's move, Elisheva, to the next thing. None of us like to make mistakes. None of us love to hear what they've done wrong, especially it's against your values and principles. And by the way, there's something good about the fact that it bothers you because you care. But even after you realize you've made a mistake, there's two ways to approach it. As growing lesson or guilt, blame, shame, and I'm deciding that I'm not worthy of the love of the universe right after the mistake. So can you elaborate on it a little bit more?
Well, I think I don't remember who I heard saying it, but the phrase is, it's not a mistake unless you decide it was. And there's a really powerful understanding behind that, that in our lives, energy is never lost. There isn't really such a thing as failure because everything is moving us towards elevation and growth, whether we embrace it and allow it or we fight it kicking and screaming. So to your example, let's say you made a mistake, and we've all made mistakes. We make mistakes on pretty consistent basis. And when I say mistake, I mean, we know we could have done better. We could have chose the high road, or we couldn't keep our mouth shut. We, we acted selfishly, consciously, unconsciously, and there were some negative results. To understand that even in those moments, and this is a teaching I remember hearing not so long ago from Michael Berg, that when we have the opportunity to do something, to say something, when we have a task at hand, the ultimate way to handle it is to believe, like, if I don't do it, no one's going to do it. I'm the only one. It's for me. And it's funny because it's connected to what we've been talking to these past few weeks about sharing and our purpose. I need to look at the task at hand as though I'm the only one on the planet who can do it, to take it seriously, to be mindful about it, and to use it as an opportunity to grow, to transform, to add value, whatever it is. But once it's over, to realize I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't even me. The light of the Creator did it. And it's even like you were saying, let's say you're teaching a class and you want to go, like the Kabbalists throughout history, they go and they give a speech or a class or a lecture, and then they're waiting for somebody to help them with the cleansing process, to be judged, because they don't want all of the ego consequences that come with sharing with a lot of people and helping a lot of people. If we in that moment can manage, and it's really a dance between only I can do it to it would have happened exactly as it happened if I had spent the whole day asleep in bed, to realize that the Creator is so much at work, even when I think I'm doing it, it's really the light of the Creator doing it, that even, and especially when I don't do what I intended, it didn't go my way,
So
I
what
failed.
you're saying, Elisheva, you're saying that if even the mistake that they've done after the fact, of course, in some point I need to learn the lessons from the mistake, but I need to trust and to believe that was designed for my destiny, and that this mistake after the fact, not before the fact.
Right.
Don't make mistake and say, it was designed by God. No, after the fact, the mistake was designed by God. I love it. Something that Rav Berg used to say, never regrets your mistakes, learn from your mistake.
I think that's the tricky part, because when you regret, you feel bad, you beat yourself up, it sometimes feels spiritual. It feels like taking responsibility, or, I'm learning my lesson. But if you're blaming yourself and beating yourself up, you're not learning a lesson. You're frozen. You're stuck in reliving the moment, reliving the mistake over and over and over again. What you did when you did it took a minute, took 10 minutes, at most an hour. But with the guilt and the beating ourselves up, we're just perpetuating the darkness into days and weeks and months and sometimes years. So it's important that we distinguish between recognizing I could have done better, deciding I'm going to do better next time, versus the I'm such an idiot, I can't believe I did that, what a terrible person I am. But there is no light, there is no growth when you're beating yourself up.
Yes, and I think something practical example working with someone recently, someone that is battling addiction in certain area in their life, certain addiction, and they have a real desire to break out of the addiction. They know the consequences, they know they hurt other people. And one of the difficult tests for them, especially after a while, that they restricted themselves to fall into that specific golden calf addiction behavior, when they fell and they short-circuited, it's so disappointing. And they've done it already 7 times. So it's so disappointing. And it's so tough to believe in themselves and to believe the mistake is part of the journey. And the discussion that we had, so let's pause for a second. You just made a mistake. You just fell. You don't want to be there. You want to upgrade to your elevated self without attached to that addiction. Let's think, how does God, the light, the endless unconditional power of love and goodness look at you right now? What do they see in you? What does it mean the Creator loves us? The Creator loves us while we are going through our limited process, sees our true self. After we made a mistake, very often, we believe we are the mistake, or we believe we are the imperfect that caused the mistake, and that's how we feel about ourselves. And that's part of the struggle all of us have. While indeed, I need to take responsibility for the mistake, but to move forward, the strength to truly transform coming from the way I'm looking at myself. Am I looking at myself like the Creator, that I believe in myself, that I have endless soul, and in a second, and I love myself, and I believe myself, and I accept myself, in a second I can transform? Or I'm holding myself guilty because of these 7 times I fell? That's a question. How do we look at ourselves and how much we believe in ourselves? And how do we look at other people after mistakes? How do you look at your kids? How do you look at your loved ones? And actually, if you don't have tolerance for other people when they're making mistakes, you probably will not have tolerance towards yourself, and vice versa.
I sat in a class. I just want to tell you, what you're saying is so profound for me also, because this week I sat in a class where we were talking about the confusion, when you don't know what to do next, when you don't see clearly what the next step is. And someone was sharing about how all their life they lived in such a state of fear of failure, that they made choices out of fear of failure, out of worrying about how they're gonna look when they're flat on their face because they couldn't make it. And then about 5 years ago, they realized, or 12 years ago, whatever it was, they realized they're gonna fail no matter what. So what's the path that's going to bring them the most joy along the way to the failure, the most freedom and creative license along the way to the failure? And he said, listen, I'm failing every day, but at least I'm enjoying the process. And I feel like that's part of the message of this week, is that you will make mistakes. But like you're saying, the way to heal from those mistakes is the unconditional love. It's the joy in the process. It's knowing that I'm a work in progress, and failure means progress. If you're not failing, you're not trying. And that shift, that perspective shift on understanding that if I don't fall, it means I'm not moving, right? If the boat isn't rocking, that means it's not going anywhere. And so to really use this week's energy to shift our perception of what it means to not have our expectations met, or not hit the target or the goal, or to have the outcome that we desire, because it's not, for whatever reason, we perceive it as a bad thing. This week, we're understanding it's not a bad thing. It's not only a good thing, it's an essential thing to the process.
Beautiful.
Now, we also have on Thursday night and Friday this week, a very powerful opening in the cosmos that comes only once a year. And even though every week when we talk about the energy of the week, that download also lasts us for one, an entire year, we have an opportunity this week to tap into a powerful reservoir of energy that is, again, it's this Thursday and Friday. And simply knowing that it exists is part of it. Knowledge is always part of the process. Eitan, what would you share if there's a simple way to connect? Obviously, everybody knows that they can visit us on Kabbalah.com and see what options to participate in person or streaming. But even if you're just having shift in consciousness that day, what would it be?
So, as we know, this Thursday night is the holiday of Purim, which this 24 hours window from Thursday evening until Friday evening. So I would say that in these 24 hours, we try to maintain happiness, we try to maintain inner joy, and we try to maintain certainty beyond logic. But I think for me, which we have different tools, and those of you who would like to get deeper can check on Kabbalah.com what types of cosmic events, reading the Megillah, and some other, the half a shekel. But I think practically it's injecting happiness not based on what happened or what didn't happen. And when we can go to that actually place, that injecting happiness no matter what, and with that comes energy of giving, energy of love, you can transform any negativity to positivity. This 24 hours window is to be able to transform darkness to light without a process. And what we want to immerse is happiness and love, that it's not connected to something happened that I didn't happen. Because the basic, in our true essence, we are perfect being in our core, regardless what I did and didn't do. And as a result, I was happy. And from that place, I want to be a being of love. And when you capture that energy, that can transform any chaos to a blessing.
So beautifully said. And I really hope that for all of us, we're able to connect or take that connection to a deeper level. This is a time, I think, in history when the world needs more unconditional love, unconditional happiness, and the energy of miracles is available for us if we can make that dramatic shift and really draw that light to sustain us for the whole year. That's perfect. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can follow us on those platforms to receive even more content to help you live what we talk about every week. You can also visit our website, weeklyenergyboost.com, to find out more about the things we think are important for our listeners to know about, to search our archives, and to click the donate button to support Weekly Energy Boost. But really, the best way to support us is to like, rate, review, and most importantly, share this episode. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.